Hello and welcome to The Lion's Den and our Demystifying AI podcast series. We're bridging the gap between overly complex AI chat and the more simplified understanding of us mere mortals. I'm sure that many of you understand bits and pieces in the world of AI, but perhaps lack a simple overarching view that pieces it all together. And importantly, you're looking to understand why and how AI could be essential in our respective worlds. We'll be here to hold your hand on that journey as we speak to key figures across a range of industries and functions. We'll explore their journey, insights, and practical applications of AI, from data scientists and engineers to business leaders, investors, and ethicists. We'll cover a wide range of perspectives, so let's get started. Hi, and welcome back to the Lion's Den and our Demystifying AI podcast. So today we have David Ellison with us, and David is an accomplished data scientist and leader in the AI space. So we're quite excited about this because he's a true veteran of the industry. He's currently at Lenovo, and he's kind of renowned for his leadership across the whole of the AI space and data science, digital transformation, that sort of thing. And he was recognized on that basis as one of the top 10 data science leaders to follow in 2023. And he's made huge contributions across the field with his work at, for example, Lenovo's AI Discovery Lab. So he's worked on a bunch of interesting and innovative projects, such as the Smart Pit Box for NASCAR. And this highlights his expertise in generative AI, computer vision, and a bunch of other things. So he's had a commitment to responsible AI practices, which we always love to hear, and he founded Lenovo's Responsible AI Committee. And his extensive experience includes developing a bunch of groundbreaking AI solutions, driving business transformations, and earning accolades like the top 10 influential tech leaders to follow in 2024. So quite a bunch of accolades there. Pumped to have you on and to dive into your insights and experiences in the world of artificial intelligence. So welcome, David.
Thank you. I'm always happy to talk about AI. It's one of my favorite topics.
Good. Well, that's what we like to hear. Well, look, as we kind of kick off, maybe just in the first instance, just so our listeners can get to know you, could you just maybe give us the quick overview of who is David and what's he been up to for the last many years of his career?
Okay. Well, I started off my career getting my PhD in biomedical engineering at Johns Hopkins. That was before data science was a thing. And I actually had a problem getting a job as a biomedical engineer. And someone said, there's this new title out there. There's this new thing. It's called a data scientist. Maybe you should apply in that area. And I applied and stayed there and got a job instantly. And it's been a wild ride since. So I was at the beginnings of the industry of the data science field. Worked independently at a startup that I founded, and then also at the U.S. Postal Service, and now I've been at Lenovo about 7 years.
Wow. So as I sort of mentioned before, I guess it's been a long journey in the world of, I guess, both data science and artificial intelligence, frankly. So tell me, it's interesting to have you on because I think everybody in the world now suddenly has artificial intelligence or AI or Gen AI at the top of their agenda, right? They didn't have it at the top of their agenda 18 months ago or 2 years ago. You've had it at the top of your agenda for decades. So tell me how that feels, seeing this change and this movement in the market and in the zeitgeist. Is it something that you relish? Is it something that you think, oh my goodness, this is just business as usual and people are just finally working this out? What are your thoughts on how the world is now suddenly latching on to it?
Well, I've gone through the hype cycle of AI a few times now. Where it explodes and it recedes. It seems a little different this time. But for example, I was interested in AI back in my undergraduate, and then it was an AI winter, and everyone was like, "You don't put AI on any funding grants because nobody gives any money to AI." And that's the total change, this total zeitgeist change in what's been happening. It's so much easier now to get spend and to get investment in AI. But overall, you have to remember that AI has to return on investment in order to be valuable. It can't be doing AI for AI's sake. So if this is to continue, and if this excitement is to continue, we've got to focus on getting AI to deliver ROI.
Yeah, and I guess that would be the argument for why there's been such significant interest and investment in the last 18 months, because I guess since 2019, when we kind of really changed the nature of transformers and things, that now we're at a place where we really can do some fascinating stuff with AI. Do you believe that there's been a step change in the last 18 months to 2 years, or maybe 4 years, let's say, or actually has this been a linear progression and it's just for some reason the market's now waking up?
No, I think there has been something foundational that changed with the generative AI explosion. Now, generative AI has been around for a while. I mean, this has been around, ever since I was in my undergraduate and before that. But generative AI really, with the ChatGPT and OpenAI and all those investments out there, it's really changed fundamentally the way that we think about AI. Before it was thinking about AI as just a predictive power. Now with the generative, it adds an entirely new capability for AI.
Yeah, and I think that's where people get excited about generation of interesting, I guess, outputs that they couldn't have thought of before. Because that's where I always get interested with AI, and I think a lot of people find this fascinating, is you take something which you as a human could understand, analyze, and get to a conclusion on. If you look at AI and see it doing the same thing, that's interesting, but it's not as interesting as AI coming up with something totally innovative and novel, which you hadn't thought of before. And my sense, and I could be wrong, but particularly even in the last 6 months when it comes to generative AI, it started to move in that way. It used to be 12, 18 months ago that the early chat GPTs and things would give you an answer that you expected. I now feel like we're moving to a place where they're giving you an answer you wouldn't expect, but is still relevant and interesting. Do you feel like that's something that's happening at the moment as well?
Yeah, there's been a lot of developments in the generative AI space. There's a lot of advancements happening. I just met with, a company developing foundation models this morning. It was very interesting, the advancements they're having. They're trying to get models that are more efficient, that are more effective, and have that temperature change. They call it temperature, that ability to add unexpected insights into the generative AI. You can change the temperature of that.
And how do they think about that? Because obviously, to the layperson, a lot of this nuance really comes from the training of the models. And I guess a lot of people's concerns are, well, you can only train them with the data you've already got, which therefore means it's kind of self-fulfilling, or with people to sit there and review the training and make sure that it's, acting in the right way and not going kind of off balance. But how do you ensure that it also has the ability to really be generative and really create and really do things that are different? Are there kind of technical ways they do that?
Well, I mean, I think that's part of the innovation of the transformer and other basic technology blocks in generative AI. Previously it was like GANs, generative adversarial networks, that were the hot thing in generative AI. But they keep on developing new and new algorithms that are able to add variation, that are not just able to regurgitate. There was a thought a while ago, or a famous paper called, calling natural language processing a stochastic parrot. That it just repeats stochastically what you think. I think we are seeing now a change from that stochastic parrot to true generative AI spaces.
Yeah, yeah, and that's interesting. And look, we're focusing in a little bit here on, a subset, I guess, Gen AI, because it's kind of in the zeitgeist. It's very interesting. But I'd actually love to talk to you a little bit more broadly about the kind of, and again, it might be data science, it might be AI, or it might be where they come together. But you've done a lot of work with some larger organizations thinking about how to make sense of the vast amounts of data they can collect, analyze, and then kind of make decisions on. Can you maybe talk us through some of the things that have innovated in that space over the last few years and what this is allowing you to do, which have kind of previously been unheard of?
Well, I mean, I know we want to get off generative AI talking about it all the time, but at Lenovo, we do manufacturing and manufacture servers. I'm in the server group, so the big data center computers. And there is an opportunity with generative AI to sell servers that auto configure for you. You don't have to set them up for you. The ones that self-heal. When something goes down, they self-heal and they self-defend themselves from cybersecurity attacks. Because we're already seeing situations where they're using generative AI to perform the attack. Now we need generative AI to defend from the attack. So, we are seeing advances in the industry, in my industry in particular, and across, various other industries. I helped a wiring harness company do their production planning, and it saved them 20% of their labor costs So I mean that's AI that's delivering value to the customer.
Okay, so and that's a good example. Maybe if we pause on that, then how does that come to fruition? Is that simply that the AI becomes able to kind of ingest so much information that it's just much more competent in delivering a kind of view as to how to be more efficient in its processes or manufacturing processes or whatever it might be than a human could be or than the existing platform? So what is it that's the secret sauce in creating efficiencies?
So, I mean, the data is a key part, having the amount of data that you need. But this particular project was actually done on a small amount of data, and data that can be housed in Excel spreadsheets. But the thing is that we were taking over a manual process, a process of someone sitting there saying, what invoices are coming in and what skills do I need to fill them, and just kind of guesstimating it. We took that guesstimation out of it and actually provided real estimates of how things would take. And so now you can get a lot more accurate and granular in your planning.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because I thought it sounded exciting, was the NASCAR project. I wonder if you can talk to a little bit about that, because that seemed quite fascinating.
Yes, so we are partnering with Richard Childress Racing. They are local here to North Carolina, where I'm based out of, and they're racing on the NASCAR circuit. And when you're racing your car, you want to put just enough fuel in it to get it to the next pit stop or to get to the finish line. Any more, and you're waiting too long, and any less, and you don't get there. So it's you're threading a needle there. The current process for determining how much fuel. Now, remind you, there's no fuel gauges on a NASCAR. There's no
Oh,
fuel
there's
gauges.
not. Okay, I didn't realize that. That's good to
No,
know.
that's extra weight.
I won't be buying one of those then.
That's extra weight that you don't need. So they only know how much fuel has gone in the car by weighing the cans. They have these cans they fill up the gas tank with. And so they inject these in. What they were doing is counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. So what we did is we added a camera that was observing the person and recording not only the time that it's attached for, but also the angle at which it's attached for, and able to calculate the flow rate and tell them exactly when they've got enough fuel in the car. This allows them to pull forward and to gain 3 or 4 positions every pit stop. That's a huge advantage in a race.
Yeah, that is huge. I'm sort of a bit surprised that it's even got to this stage in the world that they're still doing it manually, counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. I mean, but good to see that that's making a difference. Do you think there's other applications like that which are, I guess, industries or environments where it's still quite basic and quite manual, where really you could just throw in something that's Gen AI based or something like that, which could just basically shortcut these simple tasks and processes? Are there any other examples you've come across recently of where that might be the case?
Absolutely. I have another example right off that we did, just a few weeks ago. And this is an island conservation project. This is in Robinson Crusoe Island off the coast of Chile. And they have invasive species called the coati. They call it the South American raccoon. It looks like a fox to me. Anyway, it's destroying the environment because it's reproducing and outcompeting all the native species. So they set up camera traps all over the island, and we're having a ranger sit in a bunker and just like look through these images all week and to find out where these coati were. So we were able to take that manual process and then convert it into, so that took 30 hours a week. And we were able to turn it something that takes 2 minutes on a GPU, an automated process in 2 minutes. So now that ranger can get out there and get actual work done instead of sitting in a hut somewhere going through images. So there's so many opportunities out there where the application of AI over a manual or a baseline can really improve the environment or the business situation that you're in.
Yeah, and do you think, I mean, there's obviously concerns out there that it takes away jobs from real humans and all these sorts of things, and you probably saw recently, actually, I thought it was quite fascinating, and they backtracked on it, but Lattice were talking about giving AI agents the same sort of status as working humans, and then there was kind of backlash, and they kind of went back from it. So it's obviously a hot topic around, like, are these AI agents there to take jobs, supplement jobs, create new jobs? What's your take on that?
I think AI will be a part of everybody's job. I think like customer service, it's not going to replace customer service. It's going to enhance it. We're going to expect, just like we expect when we search on the internet, results to come back instantly. We didn't expect that, 20 years ago. We didn't expect instantaneous results. We didn't expect Google Maps to tell us exactly where to go. We had all these problems. So AI is enabling us to deliver better solutions faster, but that doesn't mean you fire people. It means that you're able to employ them, not doing the routine, mundane stuff, but doing the innovative and creative stuff.
Yeah, but isn't that also the point though? I saw an excellent kind of meme or something, which was
Mhm.
someone saying, "Look, I want AI to do the dishes and the laundry for me, so I can indulge in painting masterpieces. I don't
Mhm.
want AI to paint masterpieces so that I can then go and do the dishes." And
Right.
that is a concern that people have, right? And it's a valid concern. Like, yes, AI can do the kind of the base automation of some manual tasks, although not necessarily physical manual tasks. But also it's being touted as being able to be this generative super creator as well, where it can
Mhm.
where it can do the creative stuff we might want humans to do that we deem as more high value. So it
Right.
strikes me that in the last few months or years, actually AI has been able to go across all of those areas, which is, I think, why people are now more concerned for it in the job market. Do you see my point there?
Yes, I think personally, the way I've been using AI is, I would produce content for LinkedIn, but it was slow and I'd probably post like once or twice a week, maybe. But with using generative AI tools, now I'm able to post every day.
Hmm.
So that's that increase of level of service, that increase of output that you're able to get with AI. Now that didn't eliminate my job. I haven't automated it away, but I'm able to do more now with less time. There will be, and let's be honest, there will be some jobs that get automated away, but there are so many other jobs that will be enhanced, and the statement the joke that you probably heard is, AI won't take your job, but somebody using AI will take your job. You've probably heard that joke
Yeah.
before. I definitely believe in that.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one because that takes me on to another topic that I'm fascinated in, which is how are people going to learn to work with AI? So I've noticed already there are piles of courses at colleges around the world that are sort of AI oriented courses, a myriad of different ways. But the reality is, it's not just AI courses. It's now going to be, if you go and do a chemical engineering degree, that should have how to work with AI in chemical engineering embedded into the degree. And I'm really curious how that's going to happen, because if you think about most people who are designing those courses, they are chemical engineering professors who are in their late 50s or whatever it might be, right? Like, so they're
Hmm.
not going to be leading on the AI front of supporting that. So I'm curious to see how we're going to blend those worlds so that people learning to do all of the different skill sets that are required of a well-functioning world can have AI integrated into them from the days of them learning those things at college, etc. I mean, have you seen anything happening around that? Have you got any observations on that at all?
Well, given this statement is coming from someone with a PhD, I don't think schools can teach you at the rate that they need to be teaching. The rate that things are developing, a school can't teach you, a curriculum can't teach you. You have to take a charge and teach yourself. Now so when you're talking about a school curriculum, is a school curriculum going to be strong enough? I think the school curriculum gives you the bound, but you have to learn it yourself, because anything they teach you is going to be outdated in 6 months. I mean, just look at the explosion that we've had in the last 6 months, 2 years. What I'm doing in AI, even though I studied AI in my PhD and undergraduate, all of that's out of date. All of that's
Mm.
gone now. Unless you are constantly going to school, the best way to go to school is to teach yourself.
Yeah, and I wonder, maybe this just changes the nature of our higher education model, right? It just changes the way in which people learn for vocational reasons, right? Maybe there's a
Hmm.
different model. Maybe there is, instead of just a 4-year college degree, you pay for, or it becomes accepted that you do a 10-year kind of course, or not even a course, like a connection point with a college, that
Hmm.
such that you're constantly being uploaded with interesting kind of renovations on the topic of whatever your initial major was, for example. But I guess I mean, we'll see on that. But I think that's interesting because for the workforce to be able to take advantage of AI, they have to understand how to work with it.
Key to this is an education that teaches you stuff is not very valuable. An education should teach you how to learn. Like the purpose of a PhD is not to become an expert in a particular topic. It's to learn how to learn. And we're going to need those skills. You don't need a PhD. There's plenty of smart people that don't even graduate college. Just go learn how to learn, and you will be valuable in whatever job you do, and you'll be able to keep up with AI. Learn how to learn.
Okay, that's interesting. So I'm going to change topic for a moment because I do want to get onto this point around the kind of ethics, because this is always, again, a bit of a hot topic. I know that you were responsible for setting up that ethical AI committee at Lenovo. Can you talk us through a little bit about A, kind of why you did that, and B, your perspectives on why it's important?
Yes, absolutely. So what was happening at Lenovo was I was making all the decisions about what AI was considered reasonable and what AI is considered ethical. And it was just me in a room making the decision, like I'm some sort of dictator, all-knowing dictator, right? Like I immediately said, this is not the way this decision needs to be made. This needs to be a committee of people with diverse backgrounds, with diverse experiences, some experts in AI, some not experts in AI, because you want that diversity of opinion and diversity of backgrounds, and that are making the decisions on what is ethical, what is diverse, what is responsible. And so that's why we formed the committee. And now we've got about 20 to 30 people that sit on the committee that review all internal and external projects at Lenovo.
And where do you spend most of your time in that committee? Like, what are the biggest ethical quandaries that you're dealing with?
A lot with privacy. We have 6 pillars of responsible AI: diversity, inclusion, privacy and security, accountability and reliability, transparency, explainability, and environmental and social impact. We have all those ones. Right now, we are spending a lot of time in privacy and security.
Okay, that's great. And look, I think security and privacy is always a major issue for corporations in particular. So, is the big driver of that your kind of customers and clients wanting to ensure that they're not giving away proprietary information, or it's not being used to train models that would then ultimately give it away? Is that the main security and privacy piece, or is it more them safeguarding their customers' data?
I think it's a combination of both. Certainly, we have financial customers, financial institutions that are worried about guarding their customers' data. But a lot of companies are very concerned about safeguarding their own proprietary secrets. Like you saw the instance that happened with Samsung, where 3 employees put in the code for their low-level devices, and that got retrained on and released through ChatGPT. Well, a lot of companies saw that and got very nervous very quickly. So we need to review all our products for security and privacy, and for the other pillars, and for diversity, inclusion, and everything else that is essential.
And the diversity and inclusion bit, does that mostly come out of biases that could be inherent within the artificial intelligence itself? Because that's often where diversity meets artificial intelligence, is from bias perspective. Is that correct?
Bias plays a whole role, but diversity and inclusion is a huge area of topic that's not just bias. You're looking at how systems are designed, how you interact with systems. Not everybody interacts with a system the same way. Even if data isn't biased, you can still have differential outcomes based on who's using it. And all that's important. Even accessibility is important. You want all peoples of all different ability levels to be able to use technology. So there's a lot of aspects. A bias is one of them, and we use software in particular to help measure that quantitatively and correct for it.
Yeah, and that's interesting. So accessibility is one I hadn't really considered, but now you're talking about it, that seems like quite a major deal, because it's very easy to sit here in a professional working environment and think, well, Gen AI is great and we can interact with it and all the cool stuff it could do. But what you forget is that actually different people have different ways in which they have to be able to interact with it. And it could be, let's say you're disabled, or it could be that you have other things that preclude you from being able to understand what you can ask Gen AI platforms or ChatGPT or whatever. Then actually it doesn't level the playing field at all. It only levels the playing field for people who are able to interact with it effectively. So creating a more accessible environment into that AI for a range of different types of people and with different backgrounds and competencies and capabilities and origins obviously has a big impact. Is that what you're driving at? That kind of like ability to allow everyone to work in the same way with generative AI.
Absolutely. And, we are actually have a partnership with the Scott Morgan Foundation that works with patients with ALS. And there
Mm.
you lose your motor function. You're still got all the cognitive capabilities, but you lose your motor function. So there we're applying generative AI to help them for the text completion. So, instead of going letter by letter and completing a thought and spelling it out by your eye movements very slowly, we can suggest entire sentences and say, "Were you going to say this?" And they use generative AI to say, "Were you going to say this?" Okay, then you can just say it really quickly and respond instead of having to spell it out letter by letter, and give a voice to people that otherwise don't have a voice. So that's part of using generative AI to be successful, and then they can use that to use generative AI tools, right?
Yeah, but that's a fantastic application. I mean, that really is, that is something will change lives. I mean, genuinely change lives. I mean, like, yes, to an extent, it changes your life to be able to get ChatGPT to do a picture of a monkey on a catapult, but it doesn't really change your life. Whereas someone with ALS, their quality of life will change dramatically by having that kind of support in their system. Is that something, just on that particular one, is that something that's already happening and it's actually out in production and supporting people to live better lives?
We have it offered to a couple people that are test users, and we are rolling out the product as we speak. Obviously, it's not done for profit because it's not big enough market for a $70 billion company like Lenovo to try to earn money off this. This is just done for the benefit of the people with ALS.
Yeah.
And so it takes a lot to get a product to market that you're not going to make money off of, right?
Well,
So,
and this is where it gets interesting, right? We haven't really talked about the commercial side of AI, and this is where it's getting interesting because I do think that there are interests that drive the commercial side of AI, when actually AI is genuinely something in terms of a technical revolution that can support quality of life for many, many people in many ways, but perhaps doesn't have frankly, a profitable conclusion, right? And so I think we have to be a little bit careful because if we look at, for example, the onset of social media, whether so 10, 15 years ago, I think we would probably all agree that that ended up culminating in where the commercial interests wanted it to be rather than actually creating better lives, which it could have done if it had been directed a different way. And I think one of the nervous things about AI is that it's captured by the great kind of digitally native behemoths and driven towards just generating profit. How do you think we safeguard against that? How do you think we make sure that actually there is an effort and resource going into doing the things that will just make the world a better place when it comes to AI?
Well, that's where we as a society need to come together and decide how AI should be used and where it can be used responsibly. Unfortunately, in America right now, we don't agree on a lot of things, and not a lot of legislation has come out on how to use AI appropriately. Europe has been leading in this area. Some say they're too restrictive in the EU AI Act and GDPR and all these other, laws that are coming out in the EU, but they've been really leading the way and having a society decide how is it appropriate to use AI and when is it appropriate to use AI. But if we don't decide as a society what it is, then you're right. It's just the big behemoths, the big companies out there deciding what it is for us. So somebody's going to decide. Do we want as a society to decide it, or do we want it to be decided for us by the?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to become really it's very, very closely connected to politics. Let's be honest, right? Like that's the truth of it, and to the governance of a nation or a set of nations. And yeah, I think you're right. Like it's kind of well accepted to an extent that that in the EU there's a lot of regulation, which is great, but it's stifling innovation. And in the US, there's no regulation or next to no regulation, and innovation is flourishing, but it's also stifling whether or not this is being done the right way. And I think we have to reach a middle ground. So one hopes that once we've got through this year when 80% of the entire world are voting for their next government, and hopefully we get to a level pegging of right now, what are we going to do to actually ensure that we're doing the right things for AI to both innovate and to safeguard. But let's just kind of, as we sort of start to think about wrapping up, maybe we could just talk about where you see the future of AI. And that's a really broad topic. But are there things that you believe we're on the cusp of that are going to fundamentally change how we see and use AI? Or is that stuff already that we kind of already have, and the stuff we're working on in terms of just Gen AI where it is today?
Well, I mean, I think you're going to see an advancement in AI agents,
Hmm.
AI system, generative AI systems that not only just give you the answers, but also do them for you. Someone that schedules your appointments for you, that goes out there and accomplishes the tasks. I think we also need to see a large advancement in the field of robotics, because you talked earlier about, you don't want someone doing the art for you. You want someone to wash your dishes. Well, in order for someone to perform those manual tasks, we're going to need a lot of advancements in robotics. So we have to see a renaissance in the robotic space too, for us to capitalize on some of these innovations. And then, we have to figure out security and privacy and intellectual property with these generative AI models. We have to figure out what's fair in that area, and what's legal, in order to advance in that area.
Yeah, yeah. I think some of those things will naturally play out as people make commercial relationships. And obviously, we've seen that with various kind of news and media agencies, getting into bed with OpenAI and things like that. But the reality is, we're never going to know until either someone gets sued or someone makes a massive contract and kind of creates exclusivity within an AI model, which always to me seems a little odd, because that's kind of not the purpose of these things. But there you go. But look, it's been super to chat on this. I'm excited about that point around robotics as well. That's something on my mind. I think there's going to be some really interesting innovations over the coming 5 to 10 years on robotics. So let's see where that goes. But it's been such a pleasure speaking with you, David. Thank you for coming on, and hopefully we'll be able to speak again soon. And I suspect even if it was only a few months, we'll see that there's been rapid change already in the market. So thank you for coming on. Appreciate your time, and on behalf of the listeners, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Thanks, David. Bye.